Salim Saab, really welcome to our studio.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for coming.
Very
Happy to have you here.
Ji.
Uh, so, you have been very busy in Bombay in teaching theatre, and you have been also associated with Prithviraj theatres.
Ji.
So, tell us a little bit about what you do there.
You see, Prithvi Theatre is a performing space. So we normally 3 times a year or 4 times a year we go there and perform a new set of plays and some of the older play productions. It's a live theatre space, as you call it here in US, and it's a very compact and nice cozy auditorium for about 200 people. And besides that, we then travel through the country. Major cities we cover, we go to places like Lucknow and Delhi and Calcutta and rest of the wherever we are invited to perform. And I am also associated with Mr. Subhash Ghai's Whistling Woods International, which is a leading film school, and it's rated amongst the top 10 schools of the world, film schools. And I am head of the Department of Production Design there. And my job is to ensure that students really get groomed in the visual side of filmmaking. And I'm very happy to say that most of our students are now making mark. It's a young school. We are only 7 years old. So, in spite of that, some of the major Humpty Sharma Ki Shadi done by one of the students directed that, which was a great success. Then there are a lot of script writers, cinematographers who are working in various fields. So our students are making a mark. So Whistling Woods keeps me busy. Then of course live theatre scene keeps me busy. Then I also do a bit of writing and scripting, and then major light and sound shows. So in Monuments of Jaipur or Ajmer. Currently I'm working on a project on Indore, Rajpala. I'm directing that show. So we are recording light and sound music, and then how the light should be, how the sound should be. I do that also. So about 1 or 2 projects in a year we do that.
When we come to production, and what are the main things you really teach in production? What are the major components of production?
Production design would mean that things to do with the sets, costume, props, anything which is coming in front of the camera, and visually important. Actors, for instance, now look of the actor. So we also emphasize that students should understand that what kind of coat, what kind of shirt, what is the character, and according to characterization, what kind of look he should have, what kind of look his room should have, what can be his wardrobe, what will the character wear, because remember, it's all there in black and white on a sheet of paper. To translate it visually, they have to understand, and we have to understand that we have to visualize it from zero. So then it's like creating a whole character visually.
Now, what about, you mentioned one of the top film institutes in the world, your institute is ranked. When we were growing up, Pune Film Institute probably was the only institute at that time.
Pune is still there and doing well. And Pune, because it's the first and it's funded by government, as you know, is aided by government. It restricts the number of students, and there is an all India competition. And FTI.
So how many students every year go to Pune Film Institute?
Pune would be having about 20. 20 in each.
Only 20?
In each specialization.
In specialization.
I
Okay.
think like that.
Okay. What about in your institute?
We also have similar numbers.
Similar number.
But what happens is that being a Sarkari institute, there's a lot of dogma which comes with it.
Sure.
So for an art school, you need a certain amount of flexibility.
Sure.
And since Whistling Woods is right there in Mumbai, where films are being made, so we get the top professionals coming in as teachers. So Mr. Rakesh Ranjan, the top sound recordist of the country, is head of the Department of Sound in us. So while he's doing a film, students can actually work on a hands-on commercial.
The
film
teachers
project.
are there doing other stuff and they also
Yes,
teaching this.
so you get the
practical.
top professionals to come in and share their experience with students, and students get a lot of apprenticeship opportunities with top professionals outside.
How the filmmaking industry has changed in India over the
I
last
think
10
the
years?
biggest liberator of filmmaking has been this going away of cellulite.
Hmm.
Because initially, if you know, we have transited that. Now everything is digital.
Sure.
When film was there, we were dependent on labs for processing of the film. We were waiting for almost 4 days to know how the results are.
Sure.
What kind of lens, what kind of light, what kind of, and half of the time we were not seeing what was being printed on film.
Mhm.
With digital technology coming in, a boy of 14 can shoot a film on his small phone camera.
Sure.
And from mobile camera to a professional camera, there are various degrees of visual material which are being
So
recorded.
how digital technology is impacting Bollywood?
Now everything is shifted to digital.
Still.
Because of that, I think the sound quality has improved tremendously. We are still coming to terms with, I would say, the older school of cinematographers who have trained on film. They are adapting to digital. But the younger generation is very adept.
What about technology? Has it impacted the production cost of the movie?
Definitely. It has taken, as
Like,
I
give
was
us an
saying,
example.
for instance, say in a small state like Ladakh or Manipur, somebody will pick up a video camera, make a film, and release it on DVD in a video theater.
Mhm.
Now there is no lab, and in his home he can have an edit suite on his computer. He'll edit the film at home, shoot in his video camera with actors, and release it on his own. So he's not going to the mainstream market at all.
Sure.
And they are indigenous filmmakers. So I think that has liberated a lot of these regional filmmakers have been empowered. The cost of filmmaking subsequently has come down. If you want to make a cheaper film, there is a cheaper technology available to you. But for big films, obviously, you go to Alexas and it's the same. The costs have gone up because the returns have gone up.
Sure. Now, when we were growing up, and those of us who left India many years ago, at that time there was only Bollywood movies, and there was only one television station, Doordarshan.
Yeah.
But after now, in the recent years, we have seen there are so many television stations. There are so many private programs. There are so many soap operas. So the demand for journalists on TV as well as the actors has really increased tremendously.
Exactly. That's what I was coming to. That because of this expansion, an institute like Whistling Woods was required. Because if you are going to have, say, 50 million pounds coming into Indian cinema from some outside company, and another $50 million coming from some other company. Now, all this funding is fine, but where will the manpower come from?
Sure. Yeah. Exactly.
So you need trained people to handle channels. You need trained people to make films. You need trained people to make documentaries. You need trained people to do various kind of entertainment projects. And even if they are not entertainment projects, for recording purposes, there's so much of demand of visual material. Because you're viewing from a theater to a mobile.
Sure.
There are at least 5, 6, 7 ways of seeing a visual material, which was not there 20 years ago. So the kind of requirement we have for visual material is enormous. And that's why this generation of today is very visually inclined, if you see.
So how this generation, see, you're also so close to Bollywood, how this new generation is mixing with the older generation? Do you see any difference? Or
That there is a different way of looking at life. I think this generation is very honest. This generation is very straight. This generation at least knows what it doesn't want to do. For us, there was a kind of, we were grown up, we were brought up in a certain amount of formality, so there was a kind of, I would not call it hypocrisy, but there was a kind of lihaz,
so-called respect.
respect. There was a certain amount of concern we had. We were, as youngsters, asked to be quiet in front of elders and not say what we felt. We were allowed not to be honest
Sure.
to hurt
So
somebody. But
now-
this generation doesn't believe
Okay.
that.
You teach theater, so, and we have seen that digital, of course, there has been a lot of change there. How the theater industry in India has changed?
Theater, unfortunately, hasn't really commercially in Hindi so viable. Unfortunately, I say, because even an institution like National School of Drama, from where I
You
come,
went there, right?
yeah, I went there. It was supposed to train people for professional theater, but the government, in spite of funding it heavily, has done nothing in terms of opening repertory companies in states. So a trained professional in theater has no other place to go but for television or films.
Sure. Who are some of the main alumni of
Nasiruddin Shah
Shah
is
is
very
one of
well
them.
known, Om Shivpuri ji, Om Puri. Then there is Irfan, who was junior to me, Seema Biswas, my batchmate, who was there in Bandit Queen. Then a lot of people on television.
Lot of, yeah.
And some of us are into writing, some of us. Swanand Kirkere is this lyric writer, Piyush Mishra, they're all from National School of Drama, my juniors. Some of them have been my students in the sense that I have been a visiting faculty in the institute myself. And so it really does very good grounding. But unfortunately, to work in theatre, we have to make our monies somewhere else. So the bills need to be paid
Sure.
from some other source,
Yeah.
and we continue with live theatre there, which is not the case here. But I feel for people here, it's time that we have a kind of exchange
Sure.
where youngsters from here can come to India.
That was going to be my next question. That now we have a new generation of Indians, South Asians being born here and being raised here, and of course there is always connection with India. So if anyone from here, any kid wants to get into Bollywood or want to be a reporter or do something with digital media in India, what you will recommend? What should be the
I think
step?
Chirag Shah from here came to our school to learn script writing. He's from Boston, a young boy.
Yes, yeah.
He's settled in Bombay now, looking for better options, and he'll do fairly well, I'm sure.
Excellent.
So he chose this way of coming to Bollywood, so-called Bollywood. I don't like that term because I think Mumbai film industry has something of its own to offer.
Okay, so what you will call them?
I'll call it
Call the new
Mumbai
name?
film industry.
Okay.
This Bollywood is a very, I'm sorry to
Copy
use the
like
term.
Hollywood,
It's a very bastard term.
Okay. Okay.
I would not like to use it.
Okay.
But people associate it with a certain kind of cinema. Now that's in entertaining mainstream cinema, which has its own role. But now, if you notice, in the last 10 years, subjects have changed.
Sure.
There is new variety of subjects which are coming. The old song and dance formula doesn't work anymore. Not especially in that scale,
True.
the way it was 20 years ago. So there is a definite change because of these youngsters.
Sure. So, like, what is the best way? Like, also actually we recently wrote an article about how the cost of education in India for the US student is the cheapest in the world in
Yes.
good quality education. So, if somebody wants to learn and do,
I would say that first they have to understand if they have the aptitude of doing it. So I think a better option would be to have workshops here. Or-
which we are thinking.
Yes,
if
I
we can.
would love to come and do something here.
Sure.
So that through that workshop, the students can discover whether they would like to take this up professionally.
Sure.
Because then everything is on stake. You opt out for medicine, you opt out for law, you opt out for engineering, so you will opt out for filmmaking. Now, filmmaking, there are a variety of media, specialization which you can look for.
Sure.
But obviously, you are a filmmaker, you are a storyteller through visual medium. Now, in that sense, it's important that they first understand whether they can sustain themselves. Because it's not talent only, it's temperament.
Sure.
It's understanding the nuance of the medium. So, and it requires a certain amount of patience as well as a certain amount of diligence So you have to be at it. Like we did theatre, so we knew how to design, how to put things together, and we managed to do that. But we never got trained for films. We trained ourselves by doing it.
You
So
know,
when I was
here,
doing-
even in Boston also, we have this, there's a lot of young generation of Indians in South Asian who are really getting into theater and, small film.
They should work on their language, because if they want to work in Bombay, Mumbai film industry,
We will not call it Bollywood, so.
please don't.
Okay.
They will have to learn how to speak. Aaj, if you see all the major stars today, be it Shah Rukh, Salman, Amir, Ajay Devgan, they all speak the dialogue well. So unless you are language friendly, how will you emote?
Sure. Well, this could be one challenge, like for kids who are growing up here.
So I think it's important for people like you to inculcate a respect for the spoken word and work on the spoken word, because I do a lot of work in India on the spoken word. For instance, Urdu, or they come to me for Urdu diction.
So
I
if you
teach
do
Urdu
a
diction.
workshop here, you'll be able to.
I would love to. I would love to do that, and I would also want them to look at some 20, 30-old classics of Indian cinema, really, to understand where we come from.
Sure.
It's not only song dance. There is much more serious effort which has been done by Guru Dutt and Bimal Roy and Mehboob Khan Sahab and rest of them. So it's important that they see those classics,
Sure.
50s, 60s. So we might, if it works out at some point of time, we can do that. But meanwhile, I'm told Boston is a very thriving theatre
It
community.
is. Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Which is a very
it
good
has-
thing.
yeah.
I think theatre is a good training ground. So some of them can opt to become serious professional actors if they want to.
Excellent. Now, talking about Mumbai cinema, and I'm told that you have a great rapport and relationship with Guljar Saab.
Gulzar Sahab, yes, we have been working for the last more than 25 years. When he was making Mirza Ghalib, that was the time I had come to Bombay. So he said, why don't you design it for me? So that's how I started. And I was pretty young then, of course. Straight out of National School of Drama, landed in Mumbai, and I was working for Shyam Benegal's Bharatik Coach at the same time, and Ghalib was happening. From then on, then he said, I said, now I'm bored, I want to go back. He said, don't go back, stay on. And he said, you are free to assist me. So I started assisting him in films. So I assisted him in portions of Leak, and then he did television work. Ghalib, of course, I was involved. And by the time when Machis came, I was the associate director for Machis. And after that, I scripted with him, I worked closely with him. But then now he writes for me, for my plays.
He's 80-year-old now. What are his interests now?
Purely literature.
For literature.
Because I think he says, now you guys make films. I don't want to make films, but I want to write. And he's
You brought this as a
Yes.
gift to us, and one thing I'm very much intrigued by the letters of Ghalib.
You see, this album, interestingly, Tera Bayan Ghalib. Now, this came in because Jagjit Singh ji, the
Yes,
Ghazal singer,
sure.
was very fond of me, and we used to meet very frequently. And he was very keen to record a fresh set of ghazals of Ghalib. So he said, let's work on a project. So tum bas aa jao.
So you met Jagdish Singh while doing the filming of Mirza
Mirza
Ghalib.
Ghalib. From then on, I had a relationship.
Sure.
Then I was involved with Kahkashan, which he had composed.
Okay.
Then we were meeting on and on. So Jagjit Bhai was very keen to do revisit Ghalib with a fresh new set of ghazals. But as luck would have it, the last phone call he called me was about a week before
Passed away.
passed away, and he said, "बस मैं आ रहा हूँ और इसको करना है." And it so happened that he was not with us, and there was this show which I used to do called Ghalib Nama, where I used to read letters of Ghalib, portions of letters of Ghalib edited, and juxtaposed with ghazals of Ghalib. And I had come all the way to Lincoln Center to perform
Sure.
in 2000. So I got this concept as a homage to Jagjit Singh ji and requested Gulzar Sahab to read it.
Excellent. Yeah. So now I'm really looking forward to listening
So
to it.
that's how this album came.
Excellent. So what are some of the things that Ghalib talks about?
Ghalib talks about practically everything under the sun. And it's in response to questions from his disciples or friends. So he would reflect on life, he'll talk about the ideal condition of ash kya hai, or he says I'm having a great time because I have got these books to read and these bottles to drink.
Okay.
Or he'll talk about in one letters that mango, and he compares mango and bottles of liquors. He says ये आम जो है वो एक सरबा मुहर गिलास लिक्वर से भरा हुआ, या कभी वो कहते हैं कि आजकल डाक का बड़ा सिलसिला मुश्किल हो गया है, तो अब जाओ वहाँ से इस तरह आदमी जाए वो जमा करे और लाए. तो ही इज एनीथिंग अंडर द सन. But the beauty of letters of Ghalib is that they are very spontaneous rendition of his times. So 1857, I don't think anybody has written so movingly about the destruction of Delhi as Ghalib has in his letters. So I chose those portions and thematically linked it with his ghazals. And we got this great album, Tera Bayan Ghalib. Two of the best voices of India of all time, Gulzar Sahab and Jagjit Singh together. And it was a sad thing, but it was also a very pleasant experience putting it together. Sad because
well, when it comes to lyricist, of course, Gulzar Sahab का कोई जवाब नहीं उनकी writing and his the way he pronounces things, and so. And of course, Ghalib was, himself was a master genius and that. Do you see any similarities between these two? Or
not really. It will be wrong to compare because Ghalib was a very inspired.
Inspired, yeah. He was.
Same as
he didn't write for the Bombay.
But you see, the great thing about Ghalib was, and I think the similarity with Gulzar Sahab would be, that Ghalib was a great editor of his own work.
Sure.
So he tore away whatever he didn't feel were up to the mark.
Oh, he did that.
He did that. And that's why you see, there is only one Diwana of Ghalib. And limited number of poems. It's not like certain other poets who have published everything they wrote.
Sure.
So there are 5 volumes and 4 volumes and 6 volumes. Now everything, you have to have that critical self-judgment.
Sure.
I think that is the greatest similarity these two have. Ghalib was very self-critical about his own self. Gulzar Sahab would write a poem and let it be there for 5 years. Then he will relook at them, and then if he finds them worthwhile, would give it for publishing.
How do you bring? I'm a big fan of Sahil Ludhianvi as well. So how do you bring him into this picture? Like
Sahid Sahab, I think. The similarity.
Did you meet him?
Sahid Sahab, no, unfortunately, he had expired before I came to Bombay. But Sahid Sahab was the first one who never diluted his language or diction for a film song. So his language remained the same. Language of literature, language of film song. The idiom of literature and the idiom of a film song. I think Sahid Sahab was the one who gave it really that pedestal of a film song can have a literary value.
Sure.
Between, I think, Sahir Saab and Shailendra, two of the greatest lyricists of all time.
Now you have these great legends who did all these things. Now you hear all these new type of songs in Hindi cinema. What do you think of that? I know recently Asa Bhosle made a very...
No, I'll say only one thing, that you see, a film song is written for a film. So there is a character, there is a situation, and there is a demand. Now to fulfill all these three, it's very stupid of anybody to think that a gangster would sing a Ghalib ghazal. He would sing Goli maar bheje mein, bheja shor karta.
Makes sense, yes.
है ना, वो ये नहीं कहेगा कि ये दुनिया या ये कि बाजी चाहे अतफाल है दुनिया मेरे आ गई है.
So have you seen like a real cultural shift or social shift in
I think
in the
जबान
movement?
बदली है, भाषा बदली है, जनरेशन बदली है. So change what it was in 60s was considered revolutionary by the people of 40s and 50s. What was there in 70s was considered revolutionary. I've gone through 3 revolutions myself
Sure, okay.
in the last. So I've been seeing this happening.
तो आप अभी बोले कि भाषा बदली है, तो कैसी भाषा इस समय है?
देखिए एक पूरा सेंटेंस, मैं भी सेंटेंस ही बोल रहा हूँ,
हाँ,
अगर आप उसको शुद्ध बात
हिंदी में
कहना
बोलिए,
चाहें तो
नहीं बोल सकते।
पूरा एक वाक्य बिना दूसरी किसी भाषा के शब्द को इस्तेमाल किए आज कोई नहीं बोल पाता है।
Sure.
तो हम इसे पसंद करें या ना पसंद करें, अंग्रेजी के लफ्ज हमारी बातचीत में अपने आप आ जाते हैं।
Bombay cinema reflects that.
बॉम्बे और फिल्म वुड रिफ्लेक्ट दैट ऑल्सो, आई वुड से ऑल्सो, लेकिन उससे ज्यादा जब जिंदगी में होता है तब सिनेमा में आता है, सिनेमा से जिंदगी में नहीं जाता है। अगर ऐसा होता तो बात दूसरी होती। अभी जब आप कहते हैं कि कॉमन मैन है, तो आम आदमी आप नहीं कहते हैं, आप कॉमन मैन कहते हैं।
Sure.
अब वो हमारी भाषा के संस्कार में घुल गया। अब वो जब निकलेगा निकलेगा, नहीं निकलेगा, हो सकता है ये चीज़ें रह जाएं। हो सिर्फ ये रहा है कि कुछ बहुत अच्छी खूबसूरत ध्वनियाँ, कुछ अच्छी आवाज़ें, कुछ अच्छे अल्फाज हमारे चलन से निकल जाएंगे। सो लॉट ऑफ दीज वर्ड्स वुड बी लॉस्ट टू अस। आई थिंक दैट्स would be a sad thing. We should make efforts to retain them. But at the same time, you can't have a museum language.
Sure.
You need to have a living, thriving language. And for language to live and thrive, you need people to use it.
If you have this power to make one change in Indian theatre and one change in Bombay cinema, what this change will be?
I would say that Indian theatre, I would, if I was in a position, I would make it mandatory for all these states in India to have at least 2 to 3 professional theatre companies in their own languages. Because theatre is an everyday experience. They should be exposed to that. And I would make it kind of mandatory that students understand what theatre is. Theatre would go to schools and theatre will come to public as a socially accepted form of practice. Like you have dance and music, theatre should have an equal standing. And films, of course, I would say that I would write to, you see, NFDC failed because NFDC failed because they were using the same mainstream release system. If they had vision, they would have created a chain of 50 to 100 theatres in the country over a period of 20 years, 5 theatres each year, and created a kind of parallel distribution system where people could have watched alternate films. Here what is happening is the 5 companies will decide what time your film will run, whether it will get a release or not. Now that's a very sad thing. I think the thing we need to change is we need to understand that alternate cinema needs alternate distribution channels. And I think the important thing is how do we reach out? So we should have an alternate retail chain, so to say,
Sure.
of alternate content to reach people. I think that is what is required. These 2 things.
What about in other local cinema, like in South and
South, Telugu is very thriving, Tamil is very thriving, Malayalam is very thriving. But it's in Hindi that all these issues become
that's
a
right.
problem. Because if you become regional, then you are called Bhojpuri. But Bhojpuri is not Bhojpuri centric.
Sure.
What you get in the name of Bhojpuri is a very vulgar form of Hindi mainstream film.
Sure. Or sweeter farmers, depending on who you're
But
talking.
I'm saying you still don't address the major issues of Bhojpur in that. Same in Avdi, same in Rajasthani. So they are making regional language film which are kind of copies of Mumbai mainstream films. They are not making real everyday stories into which we need. So I think the content needs to be helped to, and I feel that with all these youngsters, I think things will change because television has changed.
Sure.
Films will also change.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Not at all.
Very glad that
Most welcome.